We're live again, baby.
Great.
You remember this live thing?
Go on. Tell them
How to open a woman sexually.
Yeah.
This is a good conversation. So, welcome. So we've been doing a couple posts recently. If you haven't read the post, there's some great writing in there. But it's a conversation that comes up a lot around like just the general arousal points between a man and a woman. And there's often a lot of differences, and I think the biggest challenge that a lot of men run into is that the way in which they go to arouse a woman, they think it's similar to the way they get aroused, and it's actually quite different. So this is some of the talking points that we're kind of going into here. Anything you want to add?
Well, maybe just clarifying why it's different energetically. So maybe some of you know that the heart is a woman's positive pole. So this is where we extend energy from. And our yoni, or our vagina, is our negative pole. So that's where we receive energy. And then it's the other way around for a man. So what that means is that we need to really receive into our hearts in order for our sexuality to open. So we need to stimulate our positive pole for our negative pole to be attracted and to open.
Yeah, and I feel like for a lot of men, there's almost usually this expectation that they can just like arouse a woman a little bit and then go straight towards her yoni. And really, that's a very, I wouldn't say incorrect way of doing it. Hey, Stroud, how are you? Is like women generally aren't ready, and their bodies aren't moist, and their bodies aren't really ready for that. So like really long periods of time of arousal, of letting a woman's body warm up and warm up and warm up until like she wants nothing more than to receive a man's lingam, is what I found, it really supports in a woman opening, because her heart is expanding, her whole being is opening, and all parts of her are already on board. I mean, that doesn't to say sometimes it's not fun for quickies and things like that, but the point of deep sexual tantric lovemaking really happens when like all parts of a woman's body are very much aroused and ready, and that takes a little bit more time. And I think the other challenge that men face sometimes is they get erect, and especially can be older men, they're like, oh, I'm afraid of my erection will go away. And if you're a man and you're listening, you can relate to that. It's a very common theme I see a lot with men. And there's this other part where you can actually, like if your erection comes, then you can let it come down again, and then it will come back again. Like I remember I had that same fear when I really got into more tantric lovemaking, was feeling like, oh my God, my erection will be there again. But then when it comes stronger, more vigor, more vitality than I ever knew from before, because it wasn't like this force, okay, I'm erect, I need to fuck now. It's like there's a whole other way of being.
And that long time of, warming a woman's body up, there's two things I want to say about that. One is a good metaphor is a pot of boiling water. So, it has to simmer first. It takes a while before it reaches boiling point. That's like a woman's sexuality. But the other thing I want to mention is that arousal doesn't just start in the bedroom. So out of the bedroom, that's actually when a woman starts to get aroused, whether she knows it or not. And that arousal happens with depth and connection and feeling as though her man really cares about her and is interested in her day and is interested in the myriad of emotions and thoughts that are streaming through her at any given time. So that doesn't necessarily mean that you need to listen to a woman rattle on for an hour before you can fuck her. What it means is that you need to be aware of how open your heart is and how connected your heart is to her, because she'll feel that. If a man's closed at his heart and then gets into the bedroom and tries to arouse us, then it's already like 10 steps back. Or, if he's closed at the heart and then really expects us to be open, then the same thing. And that open-heartedness of a man is what will give him the authentic desire to really wait for a woman's body to be open. And if you're using lubrication, or if you're using high levels of stimulation to get a woman turned on, then you're not going to able to really take her to a place of authentic surrender. She may her animal might get turned on. You're doing all the right things to stimulate her clitoris, and her animal will be fully engaged, but the rest of her body, she won't be able to have energetic orgasms. She'll be quite closed down and she'll be tense. It's like, that high level stimulation that a lot of men go for and women go for. It's so limiting, it's very contracting. It's like often the body is contracted while that stimulation is happening because there's a goal or there's an agenda. So part of what brings about authentic surrender, authentic arousal, authentic openness in a woman is not having any agenda, not having a goal, and just really being with her from your heart. And that doesn't mean you can't be in your desire, and it doesn't mean that you can't really enjoy the experience. Go for it, of course. But yeah, be here as well. It's kind of like, how would you feel if a woman was only engaging with her heart when she was trying to turn you on and her sexuality wasn't engaged? It would be hard for you to get aroused. So, just like a woman needs her heart to open before her sex can open, a man needs his sex to open before his heart can be fully open. So it's like, this is the practice point. You're with her, you're arousing her, and you're opening your heart. But for you, it's like the full heart opening will happen once your sex gets engaged. So that's good for women to know too, that actually enticing a man's desire is part of what's going to open his heart. So that's kind of the cosmic joke, right?
It's the exact opposite.
Yeah.
And one of the things I hear you saying the most, and this is super vital for men, is presence. So feeling a woman's heart open means that you're staying present with her far beyond the bedroom. That means like engaging in conversation, communication, and really like staying attuned, not just because you want to get your dick sucked, but because like you genuinely care and your heart is open and invested in that. Because a woman will feel 150% if you are not doing it authentically. Like, then you can say all the right things, do all the right things, but if your heart's not actually there in genuine care, then she'll just walk out the door. And I see that happen over and over again. The guy's like, I'm doing this, I'm saying the right things, but there isn't actually a genuine state of presence that is being invoked. Mm-hmm. And without that genuine state of presence, then it's just not, you're wasting time. So really the state of when you can recognize, wow, I can bring my heart fully into that. And for a man, like, there's a deep vulnerability in actually opening your heart, because it's really easy to open ourselves sexually. It's easy to get aroused and get turned on and have, one night stand and all this other stuff. But to really open your heart as a man, I want to speak to that, because it's quite challenging. I know in my own relating, especially recently, my heart's really deeply opened. And the last, before we got together, last year and a half or so, I had different lovers, and my heart was open, but I could still feel a part of me pulling back. And the more that my heart opens and expands into this dynamic, it's beautiful, but it's also deeply vulnerable. And to recognize that vulnerability and to be heard and to be felt in that vulnerability allows me to even open more deeply, which at the end of that opens her even more deeply. So it's like, don't disregard your vulnerability. Your vulnerability, man, is power. And in that vulnerability is the space where you can actually use that as a place, not use it to your advantage. You're not going to take the vulnerability. Well, I'm vulnerable now, so now you got to do something to me. It's that's completely the opposite. It's natural, genuine vulnerability that comes from the softness and the tenderness. And there can be a big fear in that for men of actually going into that. But the more I've gone into vulnerability, authentic vulnerability, the more I felt, Chantel is open for me more and more. Mm-hmm. It's like, there's not me trying to hide, to put on a facade of something that I'm trying to show up as. I'm just showing up in that genuine, strength at times, deep, powerful strength in my masculine, but not being afraid in those times of vulnerability, in that presence, especially out of the bedroom, to be there, to be authentic, to be real, to recognize I don't have everything figured out all the time. I can show up and just be in the unknown, but yet still stand grounded and firm and present. And in that, then her being feels more safety. And the safety is what creates that ability for her to open in the bedroom. If her body does not feel safe with you outside of the bedroom, safe to put her head on, to cry on, to lean on, to all of that, then the safety is not going to be there. Her body might open in the bedroom, but her heart is not going to. And to really have beautiful, profound lovemaking that, you know, can last for hours and really you can feel the depth of intimacy, it means far beyond just the body. It's heart to heart, soul to soul.
Yeah, and it's to trust a man with our most vulnerable nakedness and orgasmic energy, and you know, in that space. I mean, try not to be open when you have sex. It's very hard. There's at least a glimpse of openness in that. You're being entered, and really, if you can't, as Aaron was saying, really allow your emotional body to flow, really take off your masks and reveal yourself, then it's hard to do that. And the only way that you can really trust a man with that is if he's used to holding his own feminine, if he knows the feminine. Because a man who's not in touch with his own feminine is going to be very confronted by a woman's emotional body. He's not going to know what to do with it. He's going to try to fix it, or he's going to withdraw from it. So the more that a man has cultivated feminine, actually the greater the presence that he can show up with for your feminine, because he's already used to doing it in here. The other thing that I wanted to say was that touch is so slow, sacred touch is such a huge point of arousal for a woman. And, you know, often men will go straight for the jugular, straight for the breast, straight for the ass, straight for the yoni, but being touched everywhere, on the arms, on the feet, on the legs, you know, around the thighs, being teased, and touch with no agenda, touch not to try to get us wet so that you can fuck us, although that may naturally happen, but just touch with loving awareness, just like, wow, I love your body, I love your skin, and you're exploring that feminine body with a sense of curiosity. And, you know, the way that you feel in your own state of being is also going to help her open. If you're breathing deeply into your own body, and if you're sounding, then that's going to help her breathe and sound. Because for a woman to surrender, you know, energy wants to move through her body. She wants to be breathing. She wants to be sounding. And that if you're able to move energy in your own body and sound, then that's going to help her, and you're going to connect at that place. And really, while you're touching her, if you are feeling very aroused and you're getting impatient to penetrate, then sublimate, breathe the energy up, circulate it through your whole body. And yeah, it's, I think it's time to go soon. And that's why George has come upstairs. But we're going to be talking a lot more. There's so much to cover. I could talk about this for 2 days, and we will be talking about this for 2 days at the Art of Loving Women this weekend.
Yeah, so if you're here in Perth, and that we still have some spaces available for a 2-day, it's a men's workshop where we really go into the depth of this work for men. The last evening we bring in women really to be adorned by men, and to really reshape the way in which men are showing up for women, but really showing up for themselves, more importantly. And a little like possible assignment or what you could do is to, you know, in your engagement, especially men, like in that space of touch your woman, like including yourself, with no agenda, and just explore every other spot on her body except for her genitals and her breasts, just for the first like 10, 15, 20, maybe an hour, and just like see what happens. And then write some comments below if you have any questions about any of this, or if you're wanting to dive in more. We're doing this workshop here in Perth. There's online courses with Alaya coming out. There's a lot of stuff happening. We're doing, really work all over the world. So reach out, send us a message, share this with your friends. If this inspires you, if you want, more of this in your life, then I would love to hear from you. So thanks for tuning in.
And remember, touch her lightly, connect with her heart, and feel her. We want to be felt, and we want to be able to feel you as well. If we can feel you, we're going to get more aroused. So get in touch with that for yourself. We've also got, if you're in Melbourne, Awakened Relationships coming up, where we'll be going into a lot of beautiful intimacy practices. So enjoy exploring men, and I hope to see you at some of our upcoming events.
Yeah, we'll put the comments and the stuff, the links of the events below. So love you all. See you. Mwah.